Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam on a very snowy Super Bowl Sunday. We're going to talk about a rom-com. I don't think we've ever covered a rom-com on this show before. This is groundbreaking. The historians will write about this day because this is the first time we've talked about a rom-com on this podcast. The rom-com we're talking about is the originally theatrical exclusive, and I don't know why Peacock keeps doing this while the other streamers don't do this, and that would be putting it out on Peacock, hybrid day and date release, and then, not telling anyone until like the week or two before. Like, up until like 2 weeks ago, when the TV spots started really airing in force, it was Marry Me was going to come out in theaters. It was a theatrical exclusive, and HBO Max has moved away from their hybrid model. Disney hasn't done a Disney Plus Premier Access since Jungle Cruise. I know that there are a few kids movies that are still moving to streaming, like Disney moved Seeing Red. Rumble got moved to streaming, Mitchell vs. Machines last year, but that was during COVID. Clifford the Big Red Dog. All these movies moved to streaming because they found that kids movies are doing better on streaming than they are in theaters. But I think that it's kind of weird that they moved this to streaming with 2 weeks notice. And it's all of a sudden it's oh, it's going streaming as well. It's not just going to theaters. That seems like an odd thing to happen, without any real explanation as to why. But either way, it's it came out on streaming, so I was able to watch it last night on Peacock and not have to worry about going to a theater to see this movie. And I gotta say, if you told me that between the two movies that were coming out this week, which are Death on the Nile and Marry Me, there are others, of course, but those are the two big ones. If you told me that between the two of them, the one I would enjoy more was going to be Marry Me, I would have been surprised. It's a formulaic rom-com. It's the same thing we've seen a million times before with other rom-coms. Jennifer Lopez has starred in some of them, where it's guy meets girl, then, it's not exactly a match that you would 100% see happening, and then the two of them, will have a falling out, and then they'll come back together, and then they'll, she has to make a choice. But it surprisingly works pretty well. I think that's because Owen Wilson and, Jennifer Lopez do have some palpable chemistry between the two of them, and that really makes the thing work. I think that I don't even know where to say this thing, may have failed or may not have failed. I don't think it really failed anywhere. I know we use the word formulaic as kind of a catch-all thing for it's bad because it's formulaic, but I think that's a mixtape. The formula exists for a reason. The formula exists because it works. If the formula didn't work, they wouldn't have it. It would not be used. It would, we would not be seeing that over and over again and time again, and it's tried and true. And because the formula works, we're going to keep seeing it. And as long as the formula works, it'll keep happening. And I don't have a problem with formulaic. I really don't. I'll see every superhero movie that comes out, and it's going to follow the same general outline of how these things work, and it's a story is a story is a story, and it's been happening this way since almost the dawn of man. If you want to read about it, you can read the Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell, and not just for the, this is what Star Wars is angle, but there's a lot of interesting thing about theology and about, how we evolve myths. And there's a reason formulas exist, and it's because they work. The reason why formulas exist in math is that this, if done this way with these, certain things happening, this will result in a net good. So because that happens, we can count on these movies coming out, these movies being passable. And I think one of the things about this movie that makes it slightly different is the fact that, the framing device is a little different. I'm not going to say the framing device is something we've seen time and time again. It's about a pop star who's engaged to another pop star. They're going to do a huge concert event to get married. Then the day they're going to get married in this huge concert event, video leaks of the fiance, not Kat, who is Jennifer Lopez's character, but her fiance Bastian, who's played by so she finds out he's cheating, and she decides, I'm not going to marry him. So she reaches out into the audience, picks Owen Wilson, who's there on a lark, because Sarah Silverman's like, no, you have to go. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I got tickets. So, she marries him. And then what happens is, it's kind of like, we're going to stay married for a little bit just so it doesn't look like I'm insane, and then they eventually fall in love with each other. Then Bastion comes back, and then she has to actively make the choice between the two of them. Now, look, I think that, Owen Wilson is never portrayed to be a star fucker. Like, he's not there to, try to get, he's not there because he wants to marry her. It's all happenstance that it happens, and it's one of those things where it's it's kind of silly, but whatever. And I think that one of the other things that I really kind of noticed about, this and other quote-unquote chick flicks is that they get rated a lot more harshly than a lot of other movies. There are movies with glaring plot holes and glaring issues with continuity and glaring issues with, sound mixing and editing and things like that do not get the degree of, dissection that a chick flick will get. Which, chick flick is, as a term, dismissive of what it is, but a movie whose target audience is primarily women will get rated harsher than a movie whose target audience is, largely men. We tend to look at science fiction and fantasy, and science fiction and fantasy gets rated with almost a separate set of criteria, where it's we're not going to judge it too harshly because of the genre, or it's superhero movies. One of my things is I always hold superhero movies to a higher standard, because it's why shouldn't we expect more from them? And because they are people with powers, what's the first, the great Stan Lee, they're superhuman. They're human stories too, and you can use that to talk about what it is to be human using these people with extraordinary abilities, and it's a really interesting kind of thing. For whatever reason, anytime one of these movies comes out, people are like, oh, well, it doesn't say anything, it's vapid, it's this, and it's yeah, you know what? It is. But how is that any different from Commando, from Die Hard, from, Iron Man, from any number of other movies primarily targeted at men, where it's look, there's nothing particularly deep about it. You're going to look at Commando and tell me Commando is fundamentally a better movie than Mamma Mia? It's not. These movies exist as entertainment. That's what it is. And there's nothing wrong with it existing as entertainment. But to sit here and act like all of a sudden we need to have this dialogue about what it means to be human in every single movie. Meanwhile, we get that. And it's look at the response to John Wick and Peppermint, for example. Now, I'm not saying that Peppermint is anywhere near as good as John Wick. John Wick is a much better movie between the two of them. But Peppermint definitely deserves better than what it got. It's a revenge thriller. And it's you're telling me that Peppermint is not better than the Bruce Willis Death Wish remake? Come the fuck on. There are different scales that exist for rating movies that are primarily designed to, look at, that are primarily designed for women. And that's kind of, a problem that needs to be addressed. We can't just ignore it. Looking at this movie is leaps and bounds. You can't make that right turn. And wow, that was a fucking maneuver in a fucking snowstorm right there. This movie is leaps and bounds better than Death on the Nile. It's more entertaining, it's more cohesive, it's paced better, which is a huge issue with Death on the Nile, and yet this movie is not rated as highly as Death on the Nile. And it's well, why? Why is it not rated as highly as Death on the Nile? And it's looking at the talent behind the movie will give you that answer. And it's unfortunate, but it's true. So, if you have Peacock, I would say go see this movie. Now, the movie's good, but it's not exactly rush out to a movie theater good. I know it's Valentine's Day tomorrow, but it's a movie where it's it's a cute date movie. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's also a good stay-in movie, and with Peacock, you can watch it at home. It's the kind of thing where it's if I wasn't doing this, I probably wouldn't have gone out to a theater to see it, but that's just, romance movie. I think that. Oh no, you know what? This is not the first romance movie I've covered on this show. I did La La Land. What the fuck is this asshole doing? La La Land was the first one I did, and yeah, I stand corrected. I did cover La La Land years ago. So yeah, it is. I think that's the last like straight up romance movie I saw in theaters. Where it's like, look, I think that that like it functions well. It does what it needs to do. It tells the story it sets out to. And it's like, look, it doesn't fuck around. It's like, when I go to see, what was that movie called? The one with the Fast and the Furious. It's like, do I sit here and act like Fast and the Furious? And I think it's more of an intellectualist kind of bias, where it's like people are like, I'm too smart to like this, where it's like, Fast and the Furious. There are women shaking their asses, and there are cars. It does not pretend to be anything more than that. That's what it is. That's what we're here to see. Like, same thing with, like Godzilla. I'm here to see a monster destroy a city. I do not need to see more than that. If I do get more than that, great. If I don't, and I see a monster destroy a city, more than happy for that. So we'll wrap up there for today. Our next episode will be whenever I see something new, which will probably be Kimmy, which might not be tonight into tomorrow morning. It'll probably be Tuesday, because I have to do a weekly streaming recap tonight for Smithtown Chronicle. So I'll probably be doing that there. Pokemon Legends Arceus. I am nearly done with the game. I'm up to the 4th area. And I just got Sneasler. So I should be finishing that up relatively soon. So until then, have a great rest of your week.